Imagine for a moment the sting of betrayal, the sharp ache of being misunderstood, and the cold weight of rejection. Picture the stones of gossip, lies, and cruelty hurled at you not by strangers, but often by the very hands you once trusted. These stones leave bruises unseen by the world, cuts no one applauds, and scars carried silently in the hidden chambers of your heart. You've endured their harsh words, their mockery, their schemes, and yet you still stand. Have you ever wondered why God allows such stones to strike? Could it be that they were never meant to bury you, but to build something greater beneath your feet? This is the paradox of divine wisdom. The very weapons formed against you become the raw materials of your destiny. Every stone thrown at your character, your dreams, or your faith is not wasted in God's design. What they used to break you, God reshapes to raise you. What was meant to crush you becomes the foundation of your throne. The throne here is not merely a seat of earthly power. It is a symbol of the life God has prepared for you, marked by honor, influence, and victory that no enemy can deny. Think of Joseph, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and falsely accused. The stones of betrayal, falsehood, and abandonment were hurled with force, yet God turned those very stones into the steps leading to Egypt's throne. His story was not destroyed by those stones, it was built by them. The throne he sat upon was crafted by the weight of his trials, polished by his tears, and crowned by God's justice. So too, your life carries this promise. What they meant for evil, God will use for good. Consider also David, a shepherd boy dismissed by his family, overlooked by his peers, underestimated by his world. When Goliath mocked and when others doubted, stones were figuratively hurled at his identity and purpose. But God turned rejection into recognition, weakness into strength. The stone David flung at Goliath was the same kind of stone life had hurled at him, meant to belittle, yet transformed into a weapon of victory, and that victory placed him on the path to the throne of Israel. Your story is not exempt from this holy pattern. Every harsh word, every door slammed in your face, every betrayal, every injustice, they are not random cruelties floating in the air. They are stones collected by the hand of God, stones he is stacking to build your seat of triumph. Do not despise them. Do not curse the ones who threw them. Instead, trust the architect who takes broken materials and crafts glorious monuments. Ask yourself, could the rejection you faced be the reason you discovered resilience? Could the betrayal you endured be the very push that drove you deeper into God's presence? Could the loneliness you suffered be the soil where your spiritual strength was rooted? When we pause to see, we realize that the throne is not made of gold alone. It is made of stones repurposed by grace. And here lies the divine irony. Your enemies become unwilling contributors to your destiny. They supply the stones, but they cannot stop the construction. They may think they've wounded you permanently, but in truth, they've handed God the very tools of your elevation. What they meant to tear you down becomes the testimony that raises you up. Their cruelty becomes your crown, their lies become your ladder, and their stones become your throne. Pause and reflect. Are you still holding bitterness for the stones they threw? Or are you willing to hand those stones over to God and watch Him transform them? The throne is not built by avoiding pain, but by allowing God to redeem it. Every bruise, every scar, every tear has value in His design. So lift your head high. Do not despise your story. Your scars are not marks of shame, but signs of construction. For God is not finished yet. The throne He is preparing for you will not be hidden. It will be set in plain sight. And when you sit upon it, the same people who threw the stones will see the glory of God resting on your life. And now, let us unfold this truth through 7 key points that will anchor this message in your heart. The stones of betrayal are the foundation of your elevation. Betrayal is one of the heaviest stones a soul can bear. It does not merely wound the body, it pierces the heart. And often, the betrayal that cuts the deepest comes from those who once sat at your table, walked by your side, and spoke words of affection into your ear. To be struck by the hand of an enemy is painful, yes, but to feel the stone thrown by a friend, a sibling, or a loved one, this is the weight that bends the spirit low. Yet here is the mystery. God has chosen to take the very stones that were hurled against you and use them as the base upon which your destiny rests. Think of the ancient builders who laid the foundations of mighty temples and fortresses. They did not begin with polished marble or shining gold. No, the foundation was made of rough stones, heavy and unshapely. Stones that looked ordinary, even unattractive. But without them, the entire structure would collapse. In the same way, the stones of betrayal in your life, those moments when you were cast aside, mocked, or rejected, are not wasted. And God has placed them at the bottom of your story, using their very weight to stabilize the throne He is preparing for you. When Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, their betrayal was not an accident in the grand tapestry of God's plan. It was the stone that began the foundation. What they intended for destruction became the very platform that lifted him into Pharaoh's palace. Without the pit, there would have been no palace. Without the betrayal, there would have been no elevation. So it is with you. What they did to harm you has been transformed into the material God will use to establish your reign. Each stone of betrayal bears a lesson, a shaping, a preparation. It teaches you resilience, patience, humility, and trust. Betrayal empties your hands of false friendships and shallow attachments so that your heart can be filled with divine purpose. It clears the ground of counterfeit pillars so that the true throne can rise. And though you may not see it now, each betrayal has quietly been cemented into the foundation of your future. Even as you read this, think of those moments when you felt abandoned or cast away. You believed those stones had buried you, but in truth, they have been laid beneath you. You are not lying under rubble. You are standing upon the beginnings of a throne. The very weight of those stones has anchored you, so that when God elevates you, you will not be shaken. Do not despise the betrayals. Do not curse the hands that threw the stones. For in the kingdom of God, nothing thrown at you in malice can remain without purpose. It will either break you or build you, and in God's hands it always builds. Your throne is rising, stone by stone, betrayal by betrayal, and one day you will sit upon it. Not in spite of those betrayals, but because of them. God transforms rejection into recognition. Rejection is another stone, sharp and heavy, often more painful than open conflict. Rejection whispers to the soul that you are unworthy, unwanted, unseen. It speaks lies that echo in the quiet of your mind. You are not good enough. You will never be chosen. You are easily replaced. These lies cut deep, for they attack the very essence of identity. And yet, God has a way of turning rejection into the stage for recognition. What the world refused, heaven exalts. What others dismissed, God crowns. David knew rejection long before he knew the throne. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint a king, Jesse, David's own father, did not even bother to call him in from the fields. The family saw a shepherd boy, unfit for greatness. Rejection was his introduction to destiny. But God, who sees not as man sees, transformed that rejection into recognition. Before long, David's name was sung across Israel after the defeat of Goliath. The boy they ignored became the man they could not overlook. Your story too may be marked by rejection. Perhaps family members overlooked you, friends abandoned you, or employers dismissed your worth. These experiences, painful as they are not the end of your narrative. In the hands of God, rejection is simply the backdrop against which His recognition shines brighter. When people close their doors, God swings His wide open. When they turn away, He turns His gaze toward you. The very rejection that once shamed you becomes the evidence that only God could have lifted you. Think of a stone once cast aside by builders. They deemed it unworthy, crooked, or flawed. Yet Scripture tells us, the stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. That cornerstone was Christ Himself, the one rejected and despised by men, yet exalted as the foundation of salvation. What greater example do we need that God transforms rejection into recognition? So too with your life. The times you were dismissed are not void. They are divine markers, signaling that your recognition must come from a higher authority. The throne God is building for you is not supported by the approval of men, but by the acknowledgement of heaven. When He lifts you up, there will be no denying the transformation. The same ones who turn their backs will be forced to see the favor upon your life. Their silence will be drowned by God's applause. Rejection prepares you for recognition by humbling your spirit and sharpening your faith. It detaches you from the fragile approval of people and anchors you in the unshakable love of God. Without rejection, you might have settled for less than your destiny. With it, you are pressed toward the fullness of God's design. Every no you received is not the end, but the echo of a greater yes that is coming. Every closed door, every overlooked moment, every ignored effort, they are not signs of failure. They are signs that God Himself will recognize you, and when He does, no one can ignore it. Rejection is not your grave. It is your proving ground. Recognition will come, and it will not be small. It will be undeniable, unexplainable, and unstoppable. Every false accusation is a step toward your vindication. Few wounds strike as sharply as false accusations. To be accused of what you did not do, to be painted in colors that do not belong to your soul, is to feel the crushing weight of injustice. The tongue is a stone sharper than iron, and when used with malice, it casts shadows over reputations, friendships, and even futures. Perhaps you have faced the sting of lies whispered behind your back, rumors spread in secret, or slanders spoken loudly to tarnish your name. These accusations feel like daggers meant to pierce your dignity. Yet, in the economy of heaven, every false accusation becomes a stepping stone toward your vindication. Joseph knew this intimately. After enduring the betrayal of his brothers, he was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife. She twisted the story, crafted lies, and cast him into prison. To men, Joseph was guilty. To heaven, Joseph was innocent. And though his reputation was shattered in the house of Potiphar, the prison became the corridor leading him to Pharaoh's palace. The false accusation that was supposed to destroy him became the bridge to his throne. What others declared with deceit, God overturned with truth. This is the way of God. He allows lies to rise against His children, not because He delights in their pain, but because He knows truth is a torch that shines brightest in darkness. When accusations fly, they create the very stage upon which His vindication will be displayed. If there were no lies, there would be no need for God to reveal the truth. If there were no falsehood, there would be no crown of vindication. Think of Jesus Christ Himself, accused falsely by priests, mocked by soldiers, condemned by a crowd shouting, "Crucify Him." The spotless one bore the shame of lies spoken against Him. Yet, through those false accusations came the ultimate vindication, resurrection, exaltation, and the throne at the right hand of God. The world said he was guilty. Eternity declared him holy. And that vindication became the very foundation of our faith. Your story carries this same promise. The lies told about you may have damaged your reputation in the eyes of men, but they cannot alter the truth God holds over you. What he has spoken will come to pass, no matter how many accuse you otherwise. The throne he is building for you is not supported by rumors, but by his righteousness. And when God vindicates, it is not a whisper in the dark, it is a shout before nations. So every false word spoken against you is not the end, it is a step. Each lie is a rung on the ladder, lifting you higher, pressing you closer to the throne. And when you are seated upon it, those lies will be silenced, not by your defense, but by God's undeniable justice. The throne is built through endurance, not avoidance. In a world that craves quick victories and instant results, endurance is rarely celebrated. We would rather avoid pain, sidestep rejection, and bypass suffering. Yet the throne God is preparing cannot be reached by shortcuts. It is not built in ease, it is carved in endurance. The stones of trial and affliction are not decorations, they are the very substance of the throne itself. If you remove endurance, you remove the strength of the structure. Think of the oak tree. Its grandeur and might do not come from gentle breezes, but from storms that bend and test its branches. Its roots dig deeper with every season of hardship, and in time it stands immovable. So it is with your life. Each trial endured, each night of tears, each season of waiting, these do not weaken you, they root you. And from these roots grows the unshakable throne that God Himself ordains. Endurance is not passive. It is not sitting silently while pain passes by. It is active trust. It is holding your ground when the winds howl and the stones fall. It is choosing to keep walking when the path is steep, to keep believing when hope seems dim, to keep worshiping when the heart feels heavy. Endurance transforms suffering into strength. Without it, the throne would crumble beneath the first weight of opposition. Consider Job, who endured unimaginable loss. Stripped of wealth, family, and health, he faced the sharp stones of suffering with a heart that refused to curse God. His friends misunderstood him. His wife urged him to surrender, and yet he endured, and in the end, God restored him with a double portion. His throne of restoration was built not through avoidance of pain, but through steadfast endurance in the midst of it. Jesus Himself modeled this truth. The cross was not avoided, it was endured. The shame, the scourging, the nails, all were borne with endurance. And because He endured, He now wears the crown. The throne was not built by evading the cross, but by embracing it with unwavering trust in the Father. So too in your journey, avoidance will never lead to destiny. Running from trials will only delay the throne. But when you endure, when you stand steadfast in faith through betrayal, rejection, and accusation, you are not wasting your suffering. You are building strength, brick by brick, stone by stone, and the throne fashioned by endurance cannot be toppled. Do not despise the long road. Do not curse the nights that test your faith, for every moment of endurance is shaping a throne that no enemy can touch, no storm can shake, and no accusation can topple. It is through endurance, not avoidance, that your destiny is secured. Your enemies unknowingly contribute to your destiny. There is a strange irony in the way God works. Those who rise against you often end up playing a role in the very story they try to erase. The enemies who thought they were tearing you down were, in truth, pushing you toward the place God intended you to stand. They believed they were obstacles, but in the unseen wisdom of God, they became instruments. Their cruelty becomes the hammer, their schemes the chisel, their jealousy the fire, all shaping you into someone who cannot be broken when the throne is finally set beneath you. Joseph's brothers had no idea that their hatred was fueling the prophecy over his life. They thought selling him into slavery would silence his dreams, but in reality they delivered him into the hands of Pharaoh's destiny. They were unwilling servants of the very God they defied, carrying Joseph not away from his throne, but closer to it. That is how God operates. He takes the malice of enemies and converts it into material for your greatness. Even King Saul, who spent years hunting David, contributed unknowingly to his destiny. Each pursuit, each moment of hiding in caves, each spear thrown in envy was not wasted. Those trials trained David in patience, in leadership, in reliance on God. Without Saul's opposition, David might never have become the king he was. The very enemy who sought to destroy him prepared him for his throne. And so it is with you. The people who tried to block you, slander you, or shame you have unknowingly become part of your preparation. Every insult hardened your spirit. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every attack forced you closer to God. They thought they were writing your downfall, but in truth, they were adding chapters to the testimony God is building in your life. Even now, the throne being constructed beneath you carries the fingerprints of your enemies. Their words, their actions, their plots, all of it has been gathered by God, repurposed and redeemed for your good. They gave you stones to stumble over, but God laid those same stones into the steps leading you higher. This is why vengeance is never yours to take. The moment you try to repay them, you step into their world of bitterness and miss the beauty of God's higher plan. But when you release them into God's hands, you discover the deeper truth. Your enemies cannot stop you. They can only serve you, and one day they will have to watch as you sit upon the throne their cruelty helped build. And scars are signs of construction, not destruction. When stones are hurled, when betrayals strike, when rejection cuts, they leave behind scars. These scars are not simply marks of pain. They are evidence of survival. Too often, we look at our scars with shame, as if they disqualify us from being worthy of honor. But in God's kingdom, scars are sacred. They are signs that you have been in the construction process, that the throne beneath you was not built in comfort, but in the fire of endurance. Jesus himself rose from the grave with scars in his hands and side. When Thomas doubted, it was not polished words or glowing light that proved his identity. It was the scars. They testified to the reality of his suffering and the truth of his triumph. Without scars, there is no proof of victory, and without scars, there is no throne worth sitting on. Your scars, too, speak louder than words. They tell a story of nights you thought you wouldn't survive, but did. They testify of betrayals that should have broken you, but didn't. They are proof that what was designed to destroy you became the very process that prepared you. Scars are not the end of your story. They are the ink God uses to write your testimony. Think of a building still under construction. The site is messy, with exposed beams, dust, and unfinished walls. To the untrained eye, it looks ruined, chaotic, incomplete. But the builder knows every mark, every scar in the structure is part of the design, preparing it for strength and beauty. So it is with you. The scars you carry are not mistakes. They are marks of progress. They are proof that God has been building you into something stronger than before. Too often we hide our scars from the world, pretending they do not exist. But it is in the revealing of scars that others find hope. When you say, "Yes, I was betrayed, but God carried me through," your scars shine with glory. When you say, "Yes, I was rejected, but He lifted me higher," your scars become a crown. And when you declare, "Yes, I suffered, but He turned my suffering into strength," your scars become testimonies that point back to God. Do not despise your scars. They are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of construction. Every scar declares that the throne beneath you is not fragile, but forged through storms. Every scar whispers that your pain was not wasted, your struggle not in vain. For when God places you on the throne, your scars will not be hidden. They will be shining proofs of His power in your life. In a world filled with unfairness, it often feels as though the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer. You have seen people who lied about you walk freely as if untouched. Those who betrayed you laugh as if their deeds went unnoticed. It can leave you questioning, where is the justice of God? Does He see? Does He care? But Scripture whispers a steady truth. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows. His justice is not asleep, and His timing is never late. The throne He is building for you is not merely a seat of comfort or recognition. It is a living testimony of His justice. It is God's way of saying to the world, "I saw the tears they ignored. I heard the cries they silenced. I kept record of every stone they threw." When you sit upon the throne He has fashioned, no one will be able to deny it, for it will not be built by your hand, but by His. Look again at Joseph. When famine struck, the same brothers who once mocked him and plotted his downfall had to bow before him in Egypt. They could not deny his throne, for it was God who placed him there. Or think of Hannah, mocked by Peninnah for her barrenness. In time, God opened her womb and blessed her with Samuel, a prophet of Israel. Peninnah's taunts fell silent because God's justice spoke louder. The justice of God works in ways both subtle and striking. Sometimes He lifts you in small ways that accumulate until no one can ignore His hand on your life. Other times He shifts everything in a moment, placing you on a throne so suddenly that even your enemies are left speechless. In both cases, His justice ensures that what He has ordained cannot be stolen, delayed, or denied. When God sets a throne beneath you, no weapon formed against you prospers. Lies lose their power, betrayal loses its sting, rejection loses its voice. The throne becomes undeniable because it is not supported by the opinions of people, but by the authority of heaven. And once God establishes you, no enemy can unseat you. So if you feel overlooked today, remember, your story is not finished. The throne is still under construction. God's justice is working behind the scenes, gathering every stone thrown at you, every tear you shed, every wound you carried. He is fashioning them into something so powerful that when it is revealed, even those who despised you will be forced to acknowledge His hand in your life. You do not need to fight for recognition. You do not need to plead for validation. You need only to remain faithful, to endure, to trust. The justice of God is your builder, and when He sets you on the throne, it will be undeniable, unshakable, and everlasting. Beloved, hear this truth. The stones they hurled at you were never wasted. The betrayals that cut so deeply, the rejections that made you feel invisible, the false accusations that darkened your name, the endurance that stretched your soul, the scars that mark your journey, all of these have been collected by God. Piece by piece, stone by stone, He has been building something greater than you could imagine. They thought the stones would bury you. Instead, those stones have become the foundation beneath your feet. They thought rejection would silence you. Instead, God has turned it into the stage for your recognition. They thought lies would end your story. Instead, He has used them to set the stage for your vindication. Every wound, every scar, every tear has been part of the construction, and now the throne is rising. The enemies who mocked you will one day have no choice but to witness your elevation, not because you fought for it, not because you demanded it, but because God Himself has decreed it. His justice is the architect, His mercy the builder, His grace the cornerstone. So lift your head. Do not despise your story. Do not resent the stones, for soon you will sit upon the throne that was forged through your suffering, crowned by your endurance and established by God's justice. And when you sit upon it, you will know without a doubt that it was not the hands of men, but the hand of God that placed you there. The stone they threw at you is the same stone God is using to build the throne you will sit on. And when the throne is revealed, it will be undeniable, for this is the justice of God, to turn what was meant to destroy you into the very testimony that declares His glory in your life.